everyone, welcome to the Newstead School podcast. This is episode 2, and on today's episode we will be interviewing Mr. Boutall, head of PPE, on the subject PPE, which stands for Politics, Philosophy and Ethics. Let's get started. So everyone, today we are joined by the head of PPE and assistant head teacher, Mr. Boutall. Welcome. This podcast episode is led by
Dravita, and I am the lead of the social media team, and I have Gabby with me, and we basically post on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, so go and check that out.
And I'm your host, Gabriella. So if we want to start, Mr. Boutall, you are head of PPE and assistant head teacher. Could you possibly tell us more about your role as the head of such an important subject?
Well, thank you for saying. Politics, Philosophy and Economics is a faculty that started up in this school a year and a half ago. That's when I started here at Newstead. And really, at A level, it covers government politics and economics and RPE. RPE meaning religion, philosophy and ethics. And it also includes RPE further down in the school. So in terms of subjects, that's what it covers. But wider than that, we have a major super curriculum program in the school, including loads of speakers who come from far afield and who are experts in their fields. And on top of that, we have an elective, and we have loads of other provisions for students here, in order to extend their knowledge and capabilities across the 3 subjects.
That's very interesting, thank you. So could you possibly tell us what do you learn at Newstead in PPE A-levels?
So in terms of the A-levels, economics is split between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Now, you'll know etymologically, micro is smaller, macro is bigger. And that's what we mean in economics. So microeconomics is the study of transactions at a market level. So in a particular industry or in a specific transaction, that is micro. Whereas macro is looking at things like inflation or interest rates or other things that impact the whole country or indeed the whole world. Now, if you think about the world as things stand, there are a lot of quote-unquote interesting things going on in economics at the moment. There's a Chinese proverb saying, I hope I don't live through interesting times. And this is, very much related to why economics is fascinating at the moment and incredibly important, because things are going wrong. Economics was quite boring, frankly, up until the credit crunch, and then there was a massive problem, and then we had COVID and all the rest of it, and a war in Europe. So there's a lot to deal with there that's really useful to study at A-level. At politics, we look at UK politics specifically. We are moving towards global politics as well. And on top of that, we look at political philosophies or ideologies. So looking at the 3 main core ideologies of conservatism, liberalism, and socialism, as well as the non-core ideology that we do is feminism. In politics, that's what we study there. And RPE is split between 3 major components. One is development of Christian thought, so that is more of a theological theme, where you look at interesting things such as how do you come to know God, or indeed, the person of Jesus Christ, and was he the Messiah, or was he a teacher of wisdom, or a political liberator. Then you look at philosophy, so you look at arguments for the existence of God and other philosophical types or views of religion, but also you look at things like language and Wittgenstein and far-flung things like that. And then in the 3rd category is ethics. And in ethics, yes, some of it is Christian focused, but some of it really goes far away, and you study purist ethical theories such as utilitarianism or Kantian ethics, and other really interesting things, which makes you wonder kind of how should I behave, how should I act, and what is the right thing to do in particular situations. Now, if you look across those 3 subjects, there's a hell of a lot that's useful for young people working out what their place is in this universe, what effect they can have on the world around them.
Thank you. It was a very detailed description. Thank you for that. So what actually inspired you to become a PPE teacher or go into PPE?
So I studied PPE at university, after which I had a career outside of teaching. and I worked in the City of London, and I had a really nice time, really enjoyed my job, but I decided that I'd go, completely kooky, and that I was allergic to money, so I should come into teaching. So I came into teaching about, I don't know what it is now, 6-7 years ago. And I've worked in a state comprehensive and an independent school, and now here at a selective state-funded grammar school. So I've seen it all, man, and got all the scars. But why did I choose to do that, and why do I want to do PPE? Because teaching in itself is amazing. You don't come into it for the money, you don't come into it for the credos. You come into it because seeing students make progress in front of your eyes is a phenomenally rewarding experience. And it is something that is sort of worth waking up for in the morning. And if you think about human existence, it's a pretty precious commodity, and it's a pretty interesting thing where we don't have all the answers, where we don't know what's going on in the universe around us, and we're trying to grapple with things that are completely out of our control and completely perhaps beyond our comfort zone. Now, PPE deals with some of those things. So if you don't have philosophy, you're working in the dark because you're not illuminated by philosophical underpinnings to everything that goes on around us. If you're not dealing with economics, then you don't know the gritty reality of how things work in the real world, and therefore how you're going to cost things, how you're going to work out the incentive models for certain behaviours and so on. And politics, of course, is a beautiful blend of both of those things, and it's what is the art of the possible. What can we achieve in this human society? What can we not achieve as well? And what do we need to be realistic about? And I think those are just fascinating subjects intrinsically. So teaching young minds, particularly here where I'm lucky to teach very bright, conscientious students who can go on to do amazing things in the future, I'm teaching those students these subjects. It's quite a compelling story as to why I would get here.
That's fascinating, thank you. So why, obviously PPE being such an interesting subject, why do you think students would study it? How does it benefit them in life, just in general?
So I think if you're a bright human being who isn't considering what is the right thing to do in terms of ethics, if you're a bright student that isn't considering what is going on in this world around us and sort of what should the future look like, not just what will the future look like, but what should the future look like. If you're not doing that, then you're not tapping into a fundamental aspect of what it is to be human and what it is to be a good citizen and so on and so forth. So I think at a fundamental level, even if you don't study each one of those A-levels, to get involved in the electives we have here, or to get involved with the speakers that come in, or to get involved with all the other things that we're trying to do to provide opportunities for students, I would strongly encourage it for that reason. But beyond that, these are subjects that are very well respected at the top universities and with the top employers, because they exhibit a type of thinking that goes above and beyond basic rote learning. And as such, they are phenomenally impressive for top universities, top employers. So even if you're looking at it from a utilitarian standpoint of I want more money or whatever, then we can sell you on that one. But I think more fundamentally, it's the intrinsic value it has in terms of being a good human being who is thinking about things beyond themselves.
So how do you connect PPE concepts to the real world applications and potential career paths for students?
So in terms of career paths, if you were to study PPE or indeed any of the related degrees, so economics and management or history and politics or theology and philosophy or philosophy and mathematics or whatever, if you're doing something that is based on humanities and is based on that, as I say, intrinsic understanding or intrinsic explanation and exploration of being human and what this universe is all about, then you have to exhibit certain skills, such as analysis and evaluation, which are higher order thinking. And because it is higher order thinking, top employers love to see it full stop. Now, when I say full stop, I mean, obviously, you do PPE, you could go into the civil service, you could go and work for government, you could go into politics straight away, you can go and work for a political party or something along those lines. or you could work in local government or something like that. But more than that, because you've shown the analysis and the ability to think at a higher level, consultancy will be open to you in many fields, as will accountancy, as will law if you then go on to do a conversion course, as will private equity, as will investment banking, as will professional services in general. So if you want to go out there and make a big impact in the world of business, then I looked at data recently and just how many people are graduates nowadays who are CEOs and other leading professionals, and it is very profound. The data that I saw was 74% of CEOs in Europe have a degree. Not just a degree, but a degree at master's or PhD. So the academic demand in the modern world is very different to what it was, say, 2 generations ago. So having the ability to show that level of analysis and evaluation is going to be beneficial to students in their life, come what may.
Wow, so for students who want to study PPE, what resources, for example, books, journals, websites, would you recommend them to use to want to further their education of PPE outside school in the classroom?
So one thing, and I'm not just trying to be down with the kids here, but one thing I would suggest is YouTube. I know it's not that down with the kids because it's not that modern, and I grew up with it. But when I mean that, it doesn't have to just be old, dusty academic tomes from the library that you get into to get into the subject. For instance, on YouTube, there's a channel. I don't know if we're allowed to advertise, but I'll take the risk. There's a YouTube channel called Philosophize This, and it's spelled with a Z at the end because it's an Americanization. But Philosophize, it goes through really interesting philosophical concepts that relate to political philosophy or epistemological philosophy, kind of a wide range of things. And it does so in a really quick, efficient way that is concise, understandable at A level, maybe even, well, definitely actually here below because the students are so bright. So a YouTube channel like that is a really good way to just get into it, just to understand. There are also loads of lectures from top universities that you can find for free online on YouTube or elsewhere. If you do want to take it up a step and you want to start reading primary text, then I would strongly recommend that. The key thing I would say that if it's PPE specifically, Balliol College, Oxford University, another plug, but Balliol College, Oxford has a website with the reading list for undergraduates in their first year for politics, philosophy and economics, split into 3, politics, philosophy and economics. Now if you think about it, if you've read that before you apply to a university, as in you've read at least some of the literature on there, then you're going to have opened your mind and widened your horizons so much before you put pen to paper or finger to laptop on your personal statements.
Thank you. Wow. So what revision tips and advice would you give to students studying PPU right now? For example, like for exams coming up, because I know a lot of people have A levels right now as well.
Yeah.
So what tips?
So we did a specific PPE revision session just before the year 13s went off on study leave. I partly did it to give them a bit of a pep talk and get them fired up. And a lot of them were smiling throughout, knowing that that's exactly what's going on. But also, it was a chance to talk through specific techniques. And again, I mean, your generation have the whole world of information in your pocket. The vast majority of you, at least, have a smartphone, which is a computer in your pocket. Now, that is phenomenally powerful if you consider that relative to other generations, previous generations. I mean, I grew up with the internet. Didn't grow up in the 50s, but I grew up with the internet, but it wasn't in my pocket. Now, that means that you have access to information, at the drop of a hand or whatever. So Google and work out good sources, but Google good revision tips and try them out, because there are specific methodologies that have been established through research and data analysis of particular experiments and how well have students functioned here or there, and the researchers there use it. Now, there's one technique which is the tomato technique. I don't know if you've come across it. I think it's a Spanish tomato pomodoro or something. But basically,
the Pomodoro technique.
yes, yeah.
Splitting it up in splitting the study sessions.
Yeah, because I think one of the problems, and I have seen it sometimes here, I'll be honest, is where students are really enthusiastic. And like almost every student I've taught here is really hardworking and really trustworthy in terms of putting in the work for the subject and for their revision. But if they're not doing it efficiently, then they're not doing themselves a service. So using a technique like that means that you remain completely focused on a task for however long it is, 25 minutes, half an hour or something. So you remain completely focused on that, put your phone away. I mean, I said how brilliant it was, but when you're revising, it can be awful. We will do it, and we do as well. Adults, teachers, we might be marking something, and I'll just go, so you put your phone away, and for 25, 30 minutes, you absolutely smash it. And you just get whatever your aim was, you get that secured. And you feel so good at the end. Then you have 5 minutes of a break where you can browse whatever nonsense you want, go on to, do your B-reel or whatever. And then you get back to it straight afterwards. If you just sit there for 5 hours thinking you're working, and I would far prefer to see 2 hours of solid revision where you have your breaks and your schedule and your aims, rather than 5 hours of sitting there with kind of mind maps and whatever.
Oh, okay, so that's really interesting. I might actually take that.
Do it, yeah, please, yeah.
So in January, Mr. Boutall here became assistant head teacher, taking responsibility for co-curricular. Could you possibly describe your job and what it is you do?
Yeah, so I work along with many other fantastic colleagues here to provide aspects that are going to enhance, hopefully, the character education here, as well as the co-curriculum. Now, our co-curriculum and our extracurriculum is phenomenal already. We have sports clubs that are winning prizes all the time. I'm sure you've heard Sir talk about it. I certainly have. It's amazing. We have an amazing orchestra. We have so much here that is fantastic. And I work. So I'm not going to say what I do. Mr. Bornat, who you will know very well, he's made this fantastic co-curriculum map that sort of pins specific things that we are doing to character references. So how is this building resilience? How is this building oracy? How is this building, whatever. And by doing that, we are creating a whole template, and Mr. Bornat and I will be working together very closely on this, to make sure that we have zero gaps and we make sure that everyone is fully prepared for A-levels first of all, and then going on to the world and conquering it thereafter. So we're doing a lot of work there, and that's with Mr. Bornat, who's done, as I say, he needs to take credit for that because it's an amazing job, which you haven't seen yet. But don't be too excited. But so I'm working with him on that in terms of what I've done already in the role and what I hope to do more of. So we have a lot of top-level speakers who have come in to the school to speak. A lot of those have been with a PPE inclination, leaning. But it's not just PPE. So we've had a nuclear physicist in. We've had recently, just last week, we had the research director of the Adam Smith Institute, one of the world's leading think tanks. We've had people in from the Tony Blair Institute. We've had the former leader of the Green Party. We had a shadow secretary of state from the Labour Party in earlier this year. And we're going to have loads more. Prior to my involvement, loads of other people in the school are doing amazing things as well, and I want to put more of a spotlight on that, and I want to make sure that we're celebrating everything that all the staff are doing and all the students are doing to raise our game and make this school as amazing as it is.
So am I right, these guest speakers are on every Thursday?
No, I'm afraid not. I wish they were, but if you think about some of the people we're getting in, if you get a front bencher in from politics, you can't expect to get one every Thursday.
Yes,
I'm afraid.
Of course.
I'm trying. I'm sorry if I'm not meeting the standard, but at the same time, we're roughly speaking, we've been getting somewhere between 2 and 5 every half term, which
that's
is
amazing.
still a pretty
Yeah.
good standard. And as I say, it's definitely not just me. There are loads of other things that are going on in the rest of the school, and I want to put more light onto that, which is why, as well with the new assistant head role, we're doing a big awards ceremony in June, on June the 28th, and that will be the Best in Everyone Awards. And I've asked staff to nominate both staff and students who have gone above and beyond, who maybe are students and staff who aren't always the one who are celebrated. Maybe they're not as loud as some of the rest of us, and therefore, aren't always being pushed into that limelight. So I want us really to celebrate everything that's going on in the school on that night, and it's going to be great. We've got the Mayor of Bromley coming in, and we have kind of music ensembles from this school who are going to perform. And then after that, on the 12th of July, you will be fully aware,
Yes.
having both passed the audition with flying colours and got involved with it. We're doing a night at the musicals, and I'm really excited to say that we have involvement from across the staff body. Who we've got? Mrs. Frost, we've got Mr. Stokes, we've got Mr. Graham, we've got Mr. Hunt,
Wow.
we've got Mr. Lewis, we've got loads of people already involved.
So it's a massive school event.
And it's going to be a massive school event, and we're going to get it on Eventbrite soon. So look out for that and get your tickets quickly, because I think they'll go quite quickly. And it's going to be a night at the musicals where it's going to be complete glitz and glamour, and we're going to get people such as yourself performing on stage and actually having that opportunity to show off your talent and show off some of the amazing talent we have in the school.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for this school. And it's honestly wonderful. I think the whole sort of awards ceremony is very much beneficial for students, increasing their motivation and obviously giving them encouragement. So we just want to say a massive thank you. Thank you for doing this interview as well. I'm sure our audience will really appreciate it and everything about the PPE sort of A-levels and the subjects. But if we close there, if you guys want to hear from any other teachers, please let us know in the comments and your questions as well. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We hope you enjoyed. If you guys have any questions for Mr. Boutall, please put them in the comments below. Our next teacher will be Miss Lau, who is the head of English and has a law degree. So if you guys have any questions for her, don't forget to put them in the comments.